A champion stranded, a family that changes everything. Under an Andalusian storm, Michael Jordan's Ferrari, the legend of basketball, breaks down on a remote road near Granada. Soaked and vulnerable, he meets Antonio, a humble mechanic who helps him without knowing he's aiding an icon. In a simple home, the hope of a sick little girl and a family's struggles touch MJ's heart. What begins as a breakdown becomes a lesson in humility and generosity. Leave a 1 in the comments if MJ's story moves you. The rain pounded the windshield of the Ferrari SF90 Straydale, turning the isolated road into a mirror of ink. Michael Jordan gripped the steering wheel, his gaze hard. The engine, usually roaring, had fallen silent in the heart of Andalusia, between Granada and the village of El Cortijo. The dashboard flickered, signaling an electronic failure. Jordan slammed the wheel, a muffled curse escaping him. He, the man who had dominated courts worldwide, was stuck, powerless, under a raging sky. He tried to restart the car. Nothing, just a mocking metallic click. His phone, his last hope, showed no signal. The storm had likely knocked out the cell towers. Alone with the howling wind and olive trees battered by the rain, Jordan scanned the horizon. Through the downpour, a rusty sign emerged, barely legible. Taller Vargas, 300M. A garage. A glimmer of hope in the nascent night. Donning a cap and a dark tracksuit, he stepped out, instantly drenched. Icy water seeped into his designer sneakers, a brutal reminder of his vulnerability. He walked, head down, the gusts whipping his face. The garage, a weary tin structure, seemed to stand by sheer will. Inside, under a flickering bulb, a man in his 40s, hands blackened with grease, worked on an old seat. Antonio Vargas looked up, his sun-weathered Andalusian face marked by friendly curiosity. "Can I help you, senor?" he asked, wiping his hands on a worn rag. His eyes studied Jordan, soaked but without judgment. Just an honest question, as if storms often brought strangers to this forgotten corner. "My car won't start. It's just up the road," Jordan replied, water dripping from his cap. His voice, usually confident, betrayed a hint of helplessness. "No signal to call. Could you take a look?" Antonio nodded without hesitation. "Claro, no problem. Let me grab my tools. With this rain, you don't want to be out there long." He picked up a worn but neatly organized metal toolbox, slipped on a faded raincoat, and locked the garage. On the way, he talked about the storm, its impact on El Cortijo's small businesses. "People here are tough, but days like this wear you down." Jordan listened, intrigued by this man who didn't pry into his identity. At the Ferrari, Antonio's eyes widened briefly at the supercar's elegance, but he made no comment, no remark about its value, no joke about luxury. He opened the hood with quiet confidence, his expert hands navigating the high-tech components as if he'd spent his life fixing tractors. The rain fell relentlessly, blurring their silhouettes under the raised hood. "It's the hybrid module, I think," Antonio diagnosed after a long silence, wiping water from his brow. "Can't fix it here, not in this deluge. We need to take it to the garage." He pointed to his rusty Ford pickup parked nearby. "About a winch. We'll tow it." Jordan nodded, impressed by the man's determination. The slow, chaotic drive on the flooded road was punctuated by Antonio's anecdotes about El Cortijo, its olive groves, the pride of its people. Not once did he ask who Jordan was or why he drove $1 million car. This rare lack of curiosity unsettled Jordan. For the first time in years, he was just a man, not a legend. At the garage, the Ferrari found shelter under the tin roof. Antonio flicked on neon lights, revealing a modest but orderly space. Worn tools, a workbench cluttered with parts, and in one corner, a framed local soccer jersey, not stars. "This'll take time," Antonio said, glancing at a wall clock. "I'll get the parts in Granada tomorrow morning. You got a place to stay." Jordan looked outside. The village streets had turned into rivers. "Not really. I don't know the area." Antonio thought for a moment, then smiled. "My house is 2 steps away. It's no palace, but my wife, Elena, always cooks too much, and we've got a couch." He shrugged, as if welcoming a stranger was the most natural thing in the world. Jordan, used to five-star suites, hesitated, but something in Antonio's eyes, raw, uncalculating sincerity, convinced him. That's kind of you. Thank you. They walked through the rain, the smell of wet earth mingling with olive oil in the air. Antonio's house, a simple ochre-painted concrete cube, was modest but welcoming. Inside, a warm glow contrasted with the storm. Elena, a petite woman with tied-back hair, stirred a pot on the stove. Sophia, a 10-year-old girl, read a book about constellations at a table cluttered with medicine bottles. Elena, Sophia, this is... Antonio paused, realizing he didn't know his guest's name. Mike, Jordan said, omitting his last name. He wanted to see how long he could remain anonymous. Elena smiled. Bienvenido, Mike. Dinner's almost ready. Antonio, get him some dry clothes. As Jordan changed, the aroma of Andalusian puchero and Sophia's soft reading filled the room. The medicine bottles on the table caught his eye, a quiet but heavy detail hinting at a deeper story. Who was this family, and why did their simplicity touch a man used to having everything? The aroma of the puchero filled the Vargas small home, a comforting blend of chickpeas, chorizo, and saffron that seemed to defy the storm raging outside. Michael Jordan, dressed in Antonio's old t-shirt and borrowed pants, sat on a worn but clean couch covered with a hand-woven blanket. Across from him, the dining table was an organized chaos. Mismatched plates, an open book on constellations, and a row of medicine bottles that drew his gaze like a silent signal. Sophia, the 10-year-old, looked up from her book, her pale cheeks lit by a curious smile. Elena, busy in the kitchen, gave gentle orders to Antonio to set the table. For Jordan, accustomed to Michelin-starred restaurants, the scene felt strangely familiar, an echo of his childhood in Wilmington, North Carolina, where simple meals united his family. So, Mike, where are you from? Elena asked, placing a steaming dish of puchero at the table's center. Her voice was warm, but her eyes, marked by quiet fatigue, betrayed a hidden struggle. North Carolina, Jordan replied vaguely, adjusting his cap to hide his recognizable features. Just passing through for business. Sophia, setting her book down, chimed in with a child's enthusiasm. North Carolina? That's near the ocean, right? I love the stars. One day, I'll be an astronomer and go to Calar Alto. She pointed to her book, where a spiral galaxy glowed under the dim light. Antonio smiled, but his gaze drifted to the medicine bottles. Sophia's the best in her class at science, he said, paternal pride in his voice. Always got her head in the stars. Jordan nodded, touched by the spark in the girl's eyes. That's a great dream. Stars are like goals. You have to work hard to reach them. The spontaneous words echoed his own youth, dribbling a worn basketball in Wilmington's backyards, dreaming of NBA arenas. Dinner began, and each spoonful of puchero brought Jordan back to his mother Dolores' cooking, simple meals that warmed their modest home. The flavors, the warmth of the table, contrasted with the formal dinners of his legendary life, but the medicine bottles pulled him to a darker reality. He finally asked, "The medicine for Sophia?" A silence fell, broken only by the rain's patter on the roof. Elena exchanged a glance with Antonio, who set down his spoon. "Yes," he said quietly. "Sophia has a kidney disease, diagnosed a year ago. Dialysis treatments. It's heavy, but we fight." Sophia, sensing the attention, lifted her chin. "I'm fine, Papa. You always say champions never give up, like MJ." She grinned, unaware that the man she admired sat across from her. Jordan felt a warmth rise in his chest. MJ, that nickname, carried by millions of fans, took on new meaning in this child's voice. "Your dad's right," he said softly. "Champions keep going, even when it's tough." Antonio chuckled, a bit embarrassed. "Sorry, she's a basketball fan." "Me too." Jordan's a role model, a kid from North Carolina who conquered the world. I've got his Bulls jersey from the '96 finals framed in the garage. He pointed to a corner where family photos sat beside an image of the Virgin of Macarena. "But lately, we don't watch games much. Too much to handle." Jordan looked down at his plate, moved. He hadn't heard someone speak of him with such sincerity in years, without the glare of fame. A memory hit him. 16 years old, shooting hoops in Wilmington, pushed by his father James' encouragement. His parents had sacrificed everything for his dreams, just like Antonio and Elena for Sophia. This thought brought him back to the table, to this family who, despite adversity, offered a meal and a roof to a stranger. "You do so much for Sophia," he said finally, choosing his words. "It can't be easy." Elena sighed, clutching a napkin. "We sold our car for her first dialysis. Antonio works day and night at the garage, and I sew for neighbors." She paused. "But Sophia, she's worth everything." Sophia, ignoring the weight of their words, spoke up. "I want to discover a star and name it Andalusia because I was born here and it's strong like the people here." She opened her book, showing a page on supernovas. "Stars shine brightest before they fade. I want to shine for a long time." Jordan felt a lump in his throat. Sophia's words, so full of hope despite her illness, echoed his own perseverance, from Wilmington to the NBA's pinnacle. He thought of the 1996 NBA Finals, those game-winning shots that proved a kid from humble roots could achieve greatness. Sophia, with her book and starlit dreams, embodied that same fire. Dinner ended on a lighter note, with Antonio sharing a story about a local basketball game where he'd scored a shot, almost like Jordan. Jordan laughed, playing along, but his mind raced. The medicine, the sacrifices, Sophia's hope, it all sank into him. As he lay on the couch, listening to the softened rain, a strange peace settled over him. This house, this family, reminded him of where he came from, and perhaps what he could still do. In the distance, a framed photo caught his eye. Antonio, young, in an amateur basketball uniform, a ball under his arm. Beside it, a newspaper clipping spoke of a promising local talent. Jordan smiled. Antonio had his own dreams, abandoned for his family and Sophia. Those stars seemed so close, yet so fragile. A question stirred in Jordan's mind. How could a champion help a family that, unknowingly, had given him back his humanity? The morning dawned over El Cortijo with fragile clarity, the olive groves shimmering under a timid sun after the storm. In the Vargas home, the scent of freshly brewed coffee mingled with Sophia's murmurs as she recited science formulas for school. Michael Jordan, still wrapped in the couch's blanket, opened his eyes, his mind heavy with the previous night's events. Sophia's words, "Stars shine in the dark, like champions," echoed in him, intertwined with the image of the medicine bottles and Antonio's dignity. For the first time in years, he felt grounded, far from the spotlight and contracts. Elena, already up, handed him a cup of black coffee. "Buenos dias, Mike." Antonio left early for Granada to get your car parts. He'll be back in an hour. I made churros if you're hungry. Her smile was genuine, but her precise, almost mechanical movements betrayed a routine marked by worry. "Thank you," Jordan replied, sitting at the table where Sophia, focused, scribbled equations. He watched the girl, her pallor contrasting with her enthusiasm. She looked up and showed him a drawing, a swirling galaxy with a star labeled Andalusia. "This is for when I'm an astronomer," she said proudly. "Papa says MJ never gives up, so I won't either." Jordan felt a wave of emotion. This child, battling a kidney disease, saw him, without knowing it, as a symbol of resilience. A flashback took him to 1982 Wilmington, age 19, hitting a game-winning shot for UNC. His father James had watched, saying, "Work hard, Michael, and nothing will stop you." Those words carried him to the 1996 finals, where his clutch shots shook the world. Sophia, with her starry dreams, carried that same grit, but her court was far crueler. "You'll make it, Sophia," he said, his voice deep. "Stars are for those who don't quit." He placed a hand on her drawing, a spontaneous gesture that made her smile. Elena, preparing Sophia's medicine, watched the exchange. Jordan seized the moment. As Sophia stepped away to put her book down, he discreetly showed Elena a recent photo of himself in a suit at a Chicago charity gala. "That's me," he whispered. Elena's eyes widened, her hand covering her mouth. Mio Dios. MJ, she whispered, glancing at Sophia to ensure she didn't hear. Jordan put a finger to his lips. Not a word, please. Not yet. Elena nodded, moved, understanding the humility of this man who'd chosen anonymity in their home. When Antonio returned, he carried a bag of car parts, his face lit with quiet satisfaction. Everything we need for your car, he announced, setting the bag in the garage. Jordan followed, watching with admiration as Antonio's hands navigated the Ferrari's complex engine. Despite rudimentary tools, he worked with a jeweler's precision, solving issues luxury shops would have charged a fortune for. You're good, Jordan said, leaning against the workbench. Better than a lot of mechanics I've seen. Antonio shrugged a modest smile. It's my job. I like fixing things, making them useful. Like basketball, you gotta be precise, right? He pointed to the framed jersey, a relic of his amateur playing days. I never made it big, but I loved it. MJ, though, he was something else. A magician. Jordan hid a smile, but his mind churned. Antonio's dignity, his devotion to his family, echoed his own parents' sacrifices. He thought of Sophia, her dialysis, the car sold to pay for treatments. An idea was forming, but he knew Antonio's pride would reject help seen as charity. He had to find a way to help while respecting their dignity. Discreetly, he stepped away and made 2 calls. The first to his assistant, speaking low, "Find me a top nephrologist in Granada. Urgent." The second to a contact at University Hospital, requesting a consultation without revealing his name. Every word was measured, like a game-winning shot he'd once calculated on the court. Back in the garage, Antonio closed the Ferrari's hood. Almost done. She'll run like new tonight. He scribbled a bill on a worn notebook. 280 euros for parts, 70 euros for labor. That's fair, right? Jordan nodded, struck by Antonio's honesty. A specialty shop would have charged 10 times more. He paid in cash, sliding the bills into Antonio's calloused hand. You deserve more than that, he said, testing the reaction. Antonio shook his head, his gaze firm but kind. No, senor. Work is work. That sealed Jordan's decision. He wouldn't leave without acting. But how could he convince a man who fixed cars with the same pride he supported his family? As the sun rose, bathing the garage in golden light, Jordan knew his next move had to be precise. Sophia, Elena, Antonio, they'd given him more than a roof. They'd reminded him who he was before the trophies. Now it was his turn to return the light they'd sparked. The Ferrari roared back to life, its engine humming under the tin roof of taller Vargas. Antonio, wiping his hands on his rag, nodded with satisfaction. Ready to roll, senor. The afternoon sun bathed El Cortijo in amber light, the olive groves shimmering like a living painting. Michael Jordan, standing by the car, knew the time had come. He couldn't leave without acting. Not after what this family had given him, a reminder of his humanity, his roots. Antonio, before I go, I'd like to take you, Elena, and Sophia to lunch in Granada. To thank you, Jordan said, his tone calm but resolute. He glanced toward the house, where Elena was cooking and Sophia was drawing. Antonio protested politely. That's too much, senor. You paid. That's enough. But Jordan insisted, his voice firming. It's not negotiable. You helped me without asking for anything. Let me return the favor. Convinced by the sincerity in Jordan's eyes, Antonio agreed. An hour later, the Ferrari sped toward Granada, Sophia marveling at the leather seats, Elena and Antonio quiet, still puzzled by their guest's insistence. At the restaurant, an elegant spot overlooking the Alhambra, the staff recognized Jordan instantly, but honored his request for discretion. Seated at a table with a view of the city, he chose his moment. Sophia, you like basketball? He asked, a sly smile on his face. The girl nodded, her eyes sparkling. Jordan pulled out his phone and showed a photo of himself hoisting the 1996 NBA championship trophy. That's me. Michael. MJ. Sophia gasped. MJ. The real MJ. Antonio and Elena exchanged stunned glances, their forks frozen midair. Dios mío, Elena murmured, realizing she'd welcomed a legend into her modest home. Why didn't you say anything? Antonio asked, a mix of respect and confusion in his voice. Jordan shrugged. Because you treated me like a person, not a star. It's been a long time since that happened. He paused, his gaze softening. But now, I have something to tell you. He turned to Sophia. Your dream of stars, it touched me. In your story, he looked at Antonio and Elena. I have a friend, Dr. Carmen Ruiz, a nephrologist in Granada. She can examine Sophia, maybe offer better treatment. Possibly a transplant. No cost. Antonio paled, his pride clashing with the offer. It's too much. We can't accept. It's charity. Jordan raised a hand, his voice firm yet warm. Not charity, Antonio. Gratitude. You helped me without knowing who I was. Now let me help Sophia. Seeing Antonio's hesitation, he added, and I have a proposal. Your garage, your talent, it deserves better. I want to invest in a modern shop for luxury cars. You be the boss. I be a partner. Your skill, my capital. A business, not a gift. Elena, tears in her eyes, squeezed Antonio's hand. Por Sofía, mi amor, except punto. Sophia, sensing the emotion, ran to Jordan. Thank you, MJ. I'll name a star for you. Antonio, after a long silence, nodded, his throat tight. Okay, for Sophia. And thank you. Jordan smiled, a weight lifting from his shoulders. In the glow of the Alhambra in the distance, he saw a new victory, not on a court, but in the heart of a family. 6 months later, October's sun bathed Granada in golden light, illuminating the olive groves and bustling city streets. In a thriving commercial district, a crowd gathered before a sleek new building adorned with an elegant sign, Taller Vargas Elite. Luxury cars, Maseratis, Porsches, Ferraris, gleamed in the lot, drawing passers-by's gazes. Inside, Antonio Vargas, in a crisp uniform bearing the shop's colors, led a team of 5 mechanics with newfound confidence. The workshop, equipped with cutting-edge tools, buzzed with activity, already renowned for its expertise. A discreet plaque at the entrance read, founded on hope and trust. Elena adjusted a banner for the grand opening, her face radiant with pride. Beside her, Sophia, now 10, held a certificate of academic excellence. Her cheeks, rosy with restored health, glowed. A kidney transplant, overseen by Dr. Carmen Ruiz 3 months earlier, had been a success. Her hair was growing back, and her smile, brighter than ever, defied past hardships. She clutched a drawing of a star, signed for MJ, who made us shine. The crowd parted, a murmur of excitement rippling through. A familiar Ferrari SF90 Straydale pulled up. Michael Jordan, in jeans and a black polo, stepped out, waving discreetly to the crowd. Local media, cameras ready, captured the moment, but Jordan wasn't there for the spotlight. His eyes found Antonio, and the two men shared a fraternal embrace, a gesture worth 1,000 words. We did it, amigo, Antonio said, his voice trembling. This garage, Sophia, all this because of you. Jordan shook his head, a hand on Antonio's shoulder. No, it's because of you. You reminded me where I come from, what matters. He turned to Sophia, who ran to him, waving her certificate. Look, MJ, first in science. I'll go to Caler Alto one day. I promise. Jordan knelt, admiring the certificate. I don't doubt it, Star. You're a champion. He opened a small box she handed him. A paper star, carefully painted. So you never forget to shine too, Sophia said. Jordan, moved, slipped the star into his pocket, a treasure more precious than any trophy. Reporters approached, microphones extended. Mr. Jordan, how did a breakdown lead to this moment? One asked. Jordan, looking at Antonio, Elena, and Sophia, replied simply, some fix cars. Others, without knowing it, fix souls. This family gave me something fame had erased, humanity. The story went viral. People spoke of a champion who, lost in the rain, found more than a mechanic. They praised a family's generosity, opening their door to a stranger despite their struggles. But for Jordan, it wasn't about fame. It was a lesson learned in a modest home, over Puchero, with a girl dreaming of stars. For the young, this story teaches powerful truths. Antonio's selfless kindness, helping a stranger without expecting reward, shows that simple acts can change lives. Sophia's perseverance, studying through dialysis, mirrors Jordan's rise from Wilmington to global icon. Basketball, through Jordan, embodies values of effort, humility, and impact beyond the court. Like on the hardwood, every pass, every gesture counts. Here, the garage, a transplant, a starry dream. If this story touched you, leave a like to celebrate hope and kindness. Comment with a life-changing encounter or a dream you chase like Sophia. Subscribe for more stories about legends like MJ and everyday heroes. Don't miss our Moving Stories playlist with videos on MJ's legacy. Under the Andalusian sky, the opening ended with a photo: Jordan, Antonio, Elena, and Sophia united before the garage. Sophia wore a signed Bulls jersey, a nod to their bond. The Alhambra in the distance seemed to watch over them, a symbol of rebuilt hope. Jordan climbed into his Ferrari, Sophia's star in his pocket. The real champion, he murmured, helps others shine. For the first time in years, he felt at home.